shit.
Michael Ironside is one of those actors who doesn't even have to speak before you know the kind of character he's playing. The moment he steps into the frame, that voice, that stare, that posture, you instantly think, oh no, here comes trouble. But here is the twist. Behind that intimidating exterior is one of the gentlest, funniest, most grounded human beings in the business. And today we are diving deep into the life, the craft, and the unforgettable villains and non-villains of the great Michael Ironside. He was born in Toronto, Canada in 1950. His real name? Frederick Reginald Ironside, which honestly already sounds like the final boss you meet in the last level of a video game. He grew up in a working class family. His father was a streetlight technician and his mother was a homemaker. And long before he became the face of cinematic brutality, Ironside was actually a writer. At the age of 15, he won a playwriting award for a script called The Shelter. Think about that. You win a writing award as a teenager, and then you grow up to play some of the most iconic bruisers, killers, and military hard cases in movie history. Strange how life works. Acting came a bit later, but once he stepped onto a stage, everyone noticed the same thing. This guy looks like he could actually break your arm. Ironside himself jokes about this, saying directors cast him whenever they need someone to yell at people convincingly. Ironside's entire screen presence comes down to a few perfect ingredients: that low, rumbling voice, a controlled, calculated anger, never loud unless he chooses to be, villains with intelligence and charisma, and those stoic military commander roles he was basically born to play, and above all, a sense of working-class authenticity. He doesn't play cartoon bad guys, he plays people who feel real, people with authority, conviction, and danger in their eyes. His famous angry scowl becomes so iconic that directors often had to ask him to tone it down.
Not like him. Like Rack! Daryl Rack!
And in his early years, he did a lot of his own stunts, until, unsurprisingly, he got injured one too many times. Now let's get to the roles that made him iconic. Ironside's breakout role came in David Cronenberg's Scanners, where he played Daryl Ravok, a telepathic terrorist leader. It's one of the great horror sci-fi performances of the 1980s, cold, focused and terrifying. He improvised many of the film's intense moments, including the energy and physicality in the interrogation scenes. And yes, he's on the giving end of that famous head-exploding moment. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Scanners skyrocketed him from Canadian character actor to international cult icon almost overnight.
Alright, we're gonna do it the Scanner way. I'm gonna suck your brain dry.
One of my favorites, Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, where Michael Ironside plays the villainous cyborg tyrant Overdog, one of the greatest names in sci-fi villain history. Space Hunter is absolutely cheap, silly, wonderfully scrappy early 80s sci-fi film.
Do you want more?
But Ironside treats it like Shakespeare in a scrapyard. He's gigantic, grotesque, commanding, and absolutely magnetic every second he's on screen. Even people who barely remember the plot remember Overdog. And speaking of Space Hunter, a full video analysis of that film is coming in just a few days here on the channel, so stay tuned for that too.
I like her.
In the 80s, he was basically rising through villain roles. V, The Final Battle, Ironside played Ham Tiller, technically an anti-hero, but so cold-blooded and cynical that audiences sometimes remember him as a villain.
You make it back safely, I'll tell you the story of my life.
Survival first, no nonsense, and one of the show's most memorable characters. And then he completely flipped expectations by playing Jester, the strict but respected flight instructor in Top Gun. Not a villain, not even close, just a hard-as-nails military guy who demands excellence, and a surprisingly warm presence behind all that discipline. This is one of those roles that showed Hollywood he can do more than just kill people with his eyes. In this Walter Hill action thriller, Extreme Prejudice, Ironside went right back to the dark side, playing the mercenary leader with one of the best classic Ironside scores ever captured on film.
Cash Bailey's deposit box. I don't want to die for Cash Bailey.
But it was the 90s where he peaked. Total Recall 1990, probably his most famous villain, Richter, is ruthless, relentless, and absolutely determined to kill Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, Douglas Quaid. A bit of fun trivia, the fight scenes between Ironside and Arnold often got too rough, and both men admitted they accidentally hurt each other more than once. The movie may be sci-fi, but those punches, they were real. He is great. He understands the role and the film, and you can see how much he enjoys being the villain here. And of course,
See you at the party, Richter!
in Highlander II, The Quickening, Ironside goes full theatrical supervillain. Loud, extravagant, chewing every piece of scenery within reach. It's one of his most entertaining performances and a cult favorite.
So tame and servile, in mine.
In Killer Image from 1992, he plays a sleazier, more psychological villain, one of Ironside's more underrated antagonists.
I suppose.
And yes, he is the villain in Free Willy. Every kid in the 90s unknowingly learned to fear Michael Ironside because he wanted to exploit a whale. The next Karate Kid from 1994, a militaristic bully running a high school task force like a paramilitary cult. If teenage martial arts films had dictators, this was one of them. The Omega Code, a Y2K-era thriller with Illuminati energy, Ironside plays a sinister antagonist with full end-of-the-world intensity. Okay, we finally reached Starship Troopers. Not a villain at all here, but people still confuse him for one because he's so intimidating. He's the tough mentor with some of the film's best lines.
Tomorrow we hit Tango Urilla. After Fleet glasses the planet, MI mops up. Carry on.
And one of the most satisfying arcs. Fans love him here. This is peak Ironside as Phil Commander energy, and again, he's having the time of his life.
They sucked his brains out.
Expanding his range, in The Machinist, Ironside plays Miller, one of the factory workers alongside Christian Bale. It's a subtle, grounded performance and shows how versatile he can be when the role demands realism instead of intimidation. And Ironside became a familiar face on television too. Serials like ER, Sequest DSV, The A-Team, Vegas, and others kept him constantly working. On Sequest, he actually played the lead for a full season. Again, not a villain, just a tough commander with a moral compass. But one of his greatest contributions is behind the microphone. He defined Sam Fisher in Splinter Cell.
My name is Sam Fisher. I used to be a hero.
That iconic gravelly voice is a huge part of why the series became legendary. When Ubisoft replaced him later, fans were furious. That's how essential he was. Ironside's voice acting portfolio is massive, and it cemented him as one of the great voices of generation after generation of fans. And then, years later, Ironside gave us one of his best late-career villains, Zeus, a sadistic, charismatic warlord in a retro, sin-drenched post-apocalypse. Turbo Kid is one of the best cult films of the 2010s, and Ironside is a huge part of why. He's terrifying, funny, and weirdly charming. Everything a modern B-movie villain should be.
Find them. Kill them. Bring me back their heads on pikes.
Off-screen, the legend is nothing like his characters. He has survived cancer multiple times, he's a family man, he's known as an extraordinarily kind colleague, and he approaches every role, big or small, with the same sense of responsibility to make it real. When you put all that together, the voice, the presence, the craft, Michael Ironside becomes one of cinema's most consistently magnetic performers. A man who always took it seriously, never coasted, and never stopped surprising audiences, even when the world thought they had him figured out. Michael Ironside never needed to be the main character to steal a scene. He never needed flashy monologues or over-the-top theatrics, although he delivered those brilliantly when asked. What makes him special is the authenticity, the weight, and the intelligence he brings into every frame. He's the kind of actor that just makes every movie he's in a bit, or maybe even a lot, better. Michael Ironside is one of those true character actor giants, a man who made villainy an art form and made intensity feel effortless. If you enjoyed this dive and want more actors, more villains, more unsung legends, make sure to stick around, there is a lot more coming, and if I miss your favorite role from him, pop it in the comments.
When your assignments are completed, signal home.
Thanks for watching.